Have you ever felt isolated, alone, or out of options? Maybe you've been blamed for something you didn't do, or someone's made you feel like you weren't enough. According to psychology.org, 30% of adults feel lonely at least once a week, and a 2019 poll by The Independent claims that 8 out of 10 young adults feel like they're not good enough. All across the world, right now, people are struggling with issues they can't handle alone. I want you to think about a time when you felt alone. A time when you needed a voice and didn't have one, or when your voice alone wasn't enough. If you could go back to that time now, what would you say? What would you tell yourself? What would you do? Whatever your answer is, I want you to remember it, because it'll be important later. When I was 8 years old, my parents made a decision that would change my life forever. I didn't fully understand the significance of it at the time, but after what felt like a lifetime of waiting and saving up money for flights and paperwork and fees and everything in between, my parents got on a plane and flew to China to adopt my 2 wonderful little sisters, Grace and Josie. When they came home, Grace and Josie acclimated well to each other and their other 4 new siblings, for the most part. And we all lived happily ever after. Of course, that is until Grace and Josie entered the 1st grade. You see, Grace and Josie were born with a common condition called Down syndrome, a learning disability which largely affects cognitive and motor function. Like many learning disabilities, Down syndrome is a spectrum. While Grace and Josie are both highly affected, they are also 2 bright young women, fully capable of learning when provided with the accommodations that they need. As it turned out, though, Grace and Josie's condition was more of a problem to their teachers than it was to them, because after their promising kindergarten graduation, they were removed from their meaningful curriculum and instead spent their time learning skills such as how to go up and down stairs and how to eat out at a restaurant, both of which they already knew how to do. Grace and Josie didn't seem to know anything was wrong. After all, they had always followed what their teachers had told them to do before, and they had learned well. There were teachers who did believe in them, of course, but without intervention, this vicious cycle would continue until Grace and Josie had proved everyone right that never believed in them. Grace and Josie needed a voice. Their situation demanded one, but they had none. So instead of learning science and math with their peers, they were separated for 7 hours a day, essentially babysat, not even allowed to eat lunch with their friends. Because the people in charge of Grace and Josie didn't believe that they could learn, they weren't afforded the chance to. And because they weren't afforded the chance to, they couldn't learn. So they needed a voice. As you can imagine, when my mother found out what was happening, she was furious. Her little girls were having their rights stolen from the very people who were supposed to be their biggest supporters. So she did what moms do, and she advocated. An IEP, or an Individualized Education Program, is a program that schools provide for children who don't learn the same way as others. Typically, parents of these children meet with the school once a year to discuss what worked, what didn't, what could be changed, and what could be expected moving forward. Typically, these meetings last about an hour, maybe 2. Over the course of the next 3 years, my mother attended nearly 40 IEP meetings, many of which lasted the greater part of the day. She faced members of the school telling her that Grace and Josie would never be able to learn like the other kids, never be able to behave like the kids with a normal IQ, never be able to do what the other kids could. And on one occasion, one of the attorneys for the school laughed in my mom's face when she reminded her that Grace and Josie are human beings. But despite all this, my mom knew that Grace and Josie needed someone to use her voice where they couldn't. For 3 years, Grace and Josie were limited by the cynicism of those who doubted them. But by the time they were in the 4th grade, my mom had assembled a team of people to help her. And even though it took financial investment and even taking the school through due process, Grace and Josie finally got a meaningful IEP and a way to really learn. Now, during all this, I was going through middle school. I don't know if you know this, but when you are in a cliquey school in a small town with classmates whose parents work at the school, being the kid whose mom sued the school is not exactly a fun conversation starter. Frankly, the job of it all was exhausting and isolating. I still do, many harmless jokes using the R word, hateful stereotypes about Asians, and Down syndrome as the punchline. I've never found these jokes funny. But when your sisters are Asian adoptees with Down syndrome, that stuff really gets to you. To be honest, though, None of that, those jokes or the rumors spread about my family, none of that changed much for me. I already knew who I wanted to be friends with, and it wasn't those guys. For example, one of my best friends, whom I've known since the 3rd grade, has a learning disability. I never really noticed when we were little, but a lot of our classmates did. In the 8th grade, my class took a field trip to watch Spider-Man No Way Home in theaters. It was fun. When my friend and I got to the theater, we'll call him Bob, we got the best seats with the best view. And apparently, a group of our classmates agreed because they started approaching the same seats. But when one of them saw us, he turned to his friends and he said, "Oh, let's go to the next row. I don't want to sit by him," while looking right at Bob, the boy who had been nothing but kind and accepting to him, and everyone he had known for his entire life. In that moment, I was heartbroken and enraged. I looked at Bob and I knew that he had heard. He didn't know exactly why it had been said, but he knew just what it meant. So in that moment, I asked myself the same question I asked you before. What if that was me? What would I want someone to say if I couldn't say it myself? As it turned out, the answer was anything at all. And so I said, "Hey, dude, we can hear you." It wasn't exactly an eloquently crafted retort, but it didn't need to be. In response, the boy said, "Oh, I'm sorry," under his breath, and he moved on. He wasn't sorry. He knew that as well as I did. But it wasn't about him. Because in that moment, Bob saw that his friend would stick up for him, no matter what. And that was what mattered. As simple as that action was, as small as it seemed to be, its impact was powerful. And Bob and I are still good friends today. Right now, Grace and Josie are 16 years old. They're freshmen in high school, and they're exceeding expectations when it comes to reading, speaking, and generally doing everything they were told they would never be able to do. Grace and Josie didn't need their possibilities to be limited. They just needed the chance to grow. And while my sisters got this chance, many others across the world never do. Many people right now need a voice, and some need to find their own. I know my mom's advocacy didn't only help my sisters. It helped me find my voice and speak up for my friend. Not all advocacy will look like what my family went through. Not everyone can put in countless hours of IEP meetings or hire a professional advocate and a lawyer. Sometimes all you can do is not stand in the way. Every situation is different. However, nothing gets done if nobody gets it done. And I promise you that every one of you here tonight will have a chance to make a difference for someone who needs it at some point. It could be something simple, like the "we heard you" that helped my friend. Or it could be something like providing continued moral support for somebody who's struggling to advocate for themselves. It's all different. Every situation will be different, but there will be chances. Do you remember that question I asked you before? What was it? What was it that you needed to hear at that time, that you thought of? What did you need? Whatever the answer is, the odds are someone you know needs to hear it now, and you can say it to them. You can be the difference that you didn't have. Provide the help that you needed. Because at the end of the day, no matter the system of limits and doubts, no matter the circumstances, every form of oppression relies on silence, and every one of you has a voice. Be very intentional with how you use yours. Thank you.